Here's a girl. This is Sally. She finds a job in her home country, Indonesia. The employment agency asks Sally to give her passport over to them. Within a few days, Sally is notified by the employment agency that she is employed in Hong Kong. She says goodbye to her family in Indonesia and flies from her home country over to Hong Kong. According to the employment ordinance, the maximum legally collectible commission fee by a company is 10% of the employee's salary. In the past, agencies were poorly inspected, with only 3 inspectors for 1,300 employment agencies. Officials would come to inspect, but very briefly. Therefore, employment agencies are able to exploit domestic workers by making them sign exceeding commissions and underpay them routinely and illegally. Although the transparency of companies' illegal acts has improved, some employment agencies shift their target to foreign domestic helpers' training fees. The fees usually consists of training on language and housework, and the payment is legally allowed. However, this is a big problem. There are no specific regulations or limits on how much an agency can charge on training fees. Thus, it is very hard for inspectors to trace the exact components and costs of training programs provided by the agencies. There are 2 cases when contracts are terminated or renewed. Taking the example of Indonesia, the Indonesian government requires employment contracts to be endorsed by the employment agency when finding a new employer. The Indonesian agencies in practice charges relatively little and reasonable fees for this required service. However, this requirement is not fully regulated in Hong Kong, in which the agencies in Hong Kong use as an advantage to overcharge foreign domestic helpers. As there is no paper trail, it is difficult for foreign domestic helpers to prove that they have been overcharged. Thus, even if they can, the Hong Kong agency avoids liability by falsely claiming that the fees were charged by the Indonesian agency. The policies on foreign domestic helpers are different in the Philippines, where the Philippines government does not require the endorsement of contracts by the local employment agencies. Furthermore, foreign domestic helpers from the Philippines are able to have contracts with employers independently by applying to the Philippine consulate themselves. Therefore, this problem is less prevalent within the Philippine domestic helpers than with Indonesian domestic helpers. Lastly, in some cases, agencies will take foreign domestic helpers to money-lending companies to help them borrow the money as a personal loan to get the training fees. This is mostly because foreign domestic helpers cannot afford those fees with their own money. However, the money that the foreign domestic helpers borrow goes directly to the employment agencies even though the money is classified as a personal loan. This leads to foreign domestic helpers repaying the money to the wrong party, even though they did not receive the money themselves. The problem comes as there is no paper trail, which the whole system becomes illegal. Without transaction record of money transfer, the employment agency in Hong Kong can simply argue for impunity, that the money is not received as the money is foreign domestic helpers' personal loan, whereas the money eventually falls into the agency's hand. So, what are the consequences to this issue? First, the Indonesian government and the Philippines government will stop sending foreign domestic helpers, which may affect the Hong Kong economy and face a lack of domestic helper supply in Hong Kong. Secondly, Hong Kong's image may be affected and poorly damaged. Will you feel bad about it? Thus, foreign domestic helpers are actually related to all of us, and you can help them by supporting good agencies and report those who exploit the foreign domestic helpers.